Previously on the Noire Files, the crime busters were on the case of two new players in Molten City's underbelly, Senior and Junior, who had started up a gang and are making a power play for control of the city's underworld. Me and fellow crime busters squad member Britt went to the gang's headquarters and place of business. After we questioned them, we were about to leave. Junior and his mob surrounded the car and blasted us with machine gun fire. A squad car came and took me and Brett to the hospital, in which we were laid in a coma for a week. But until we get out of that coma, let's have a look at the origins of Junior. Case file 12, Junior, real name Giorgio Marcano. MO, beating victims brutally to death. Age 16, victims 10. Weight average, height 4 to 10 inches. Hair blonde, eyes blue, status alive, whereabouts serving a sentence in the Hard Time Juvenile Detention Facility, or Juvenile Division, as it is most commonly known. Now, born Giorgio Marcano, Georgie grew up in a privileged life, as at the time his father was a member of the Rose Gang. By all accounts, he was a nice and kind and caring boy. But all of that changed one day when he and his parents were out and they were attacked by the Irish gang known as the Southies. The attack left him with a blind father and a dead mother. Though he was unharmed, he would later suffer from PTSD in later life. After that incident, his father was kicked out of the gang, and the privileged life that he grew up in was taken away. Since then, he grew up with hatred towards the Rose Gang for essentially kicking his family to the curb and leaving them for dead. And he also grew up with hatred for the Irish gang responsible for breaking up his family. And he also grew hatred towards his father for not standing his ground when the accident happened. In his mind, he blames his father for the whole thing. Now with no longer in a privileged life, he was forced to fend for himself. He would later grow up on the streets and earn a reputation as sadistic and brutal young hood, where he would beat up the local bullies. One incident was when he beat up a local bully named Carl Hagen, and this is the account that we were told.
Oh, yes! Let's go, fucking boys. Disgusting.
After that fight, he had fully earned himself a reputation as a really tough kid. He then began to assemble a group of followers, and soon he gained his criminal career as a gang leader. But for some reason, he later forced his father to join the gang, probably as punishment for him, for the death of his mother, and also for the fact he didn't want to be a criminal, just made it even more appealing to him. Now that we know the origins of Junior, let's get back to the present. Now, during the time me and Brett were in the hospital, Senior and Junior have already carved out a large part of the city for themselves, and it started a gang war with the Rose gang in the southeast. Now, when we got out of hospital, we knew our first course of action was to find the gang's base of operations. But, well, all of our leads came up empty. We looked at all the crime scenes for a possible location and tried to find possible gang members to flip, but they were too afraid of Junior than they were of us. But then we got a call that Junior had kidnapped and captured Nucky Bernstein, aka the Rose, and head of the Rose gang, and was holding him prisoner. The crime busters then went through all the personal effects of the Rose and see if we could track down, where he could be. We wiretap phone, tracked down last known locations, and then we came up with a possible lead. We checked it out, and we found where the Rose was being kept. Then, me and the crime busters immediately set up for a raid. We planned to raid the warehouse where he was being held, and turn up at the place, and essentially capture Junior, Senior, and the entire mob, and essentially take them down in one fell swoop. Now, when we got there, we realized we couldn't go in guns blazing. It's a good chance for the majority of the squad to get killed, along with, of course, Nucky. So, me and Britt decided we would go in and distract Senior and Junior, while the rest went around and essentially we'll have a surprise attack where we would have the advantage and get Nucky the hell out of there. Me and Britt went in and tried to assess the situation. There, me and Brett, we looked around. It's clear that Junior had more control of the gang, and we could see that his weakness was every time Senior spoke. We then tried to play into the ego, only talking to Senior, thinking he was in charge of the gang, and even saying we think Senior really runs the show, not him. This just made him even more angry. And eventually it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually we started talking to other gang members, telling who was really in charge. While the majority said it was Junior, there was a few that said it was Senior. This just made Junior even more riled up. And this played into our advantage, as what he didn't know is that Billy, Taggart, and Axel and Peter were secretly going through a window, and along with the rest of the SWAT team. They had their guns trained on him, and when they said, halt, crime busters, get your hands up and face down on the ground, Junior wasn't going down without a fight. He whipped out his gun and told his boys to open fire.
taken both sides of the lower dock area, but I'm afraid your captain's dead.
Sadly, we did actually end up losing a man. His nickname was Captain. That's why we called him that. Mostly because he was a former Navy man. During the whole gunfight, we managed to round up Senior, Junior, and the rest of the guys, but Nucky managed to make his escape. With that ordeal, the whole gang was rounded up. Senior and Junior were both sentenced to hard time, though obviously in different facilities. And when they were sent away, the whole organization completely collapsed, and there was no one to lead. And as a result, they got absorbed into the Southeast and Rose Gang, and even a little bit, even went to the British mob, Reggie's mob. With that mob war, showed to Molten City that the old timers were no longer in control, and as a result, for many people, they would consider that the mobs now belong to, well, the freaks. That was a term that most of these whack jobs we were going up against were being called. And until next time, another criminal was locked up and another case closed. And I, Noire Reed, head of the Crime Busters, call this case, well, closed. Join us next time as we tackle another criminal in the Noire Files.